Well, welcome to another episode of Good Business. Today, I'm thrilled to bring you a conversation that's going to redefine the way you think about your workforce. My guest is Lisa Seale from Belay, a company that's transforming businesses across the globe with their remote staffing solutions. We delve deeper into the future of work, the rise of remote work, and how you can navigate the evolving business landscape. Whether you're an established company or a startup, the insights from today's episode are a must-hear. So grab a pen, settle in, and let's get started on Good Business. Well, I'm your host, Clay Vaughan, and I'm best known as the CEO of Good Agency, a full-service marketing agency that helps you market your business and share your story. Now, before we get into this week's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to our show sponsor, Rocket Fuel CRM. If you want access to all the features of email and text message automation, pipeline management, and everything in between, then visit www.rocketfuel.software to learn more. All right, let's dive into this week's episode of Good Business. Guys, I'm so excited to have Lisa Seale here today with Belay. Oh my gosh, this is absolutely going to be worth the next 30 minutes of your time. So whatever you're doing, stop now, be an active listener, and pay attention because Lisa has a lot of value to share. And the reason why I invited Lisa on is honestly what the purpose and passion is behind Belay has really played a huge role in my own business. And I was like, I need to share this, but I know I personally will not be able to do it justice. And so that is why I've got Lisa here. So Lisa, thanks so much for spending some time with me this afternoon.
Of course. I'm looking forward to it, Clay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa, I'd love it if you could just kind of share with everyone listening in today, who are you? And give us the 10-second pitch or the 60-second pitch, however you want to do it. So.
10 seconds, that's tough. 60 maybe. So obviously Lisa Seale, the Chief Revenue Officer of Belay. My journey to get to where I am here at Belay has really been, I grew up with the organization. So I started with the organization about 10 years ago. As an account manager, and my background has been sales my whole life, but not your traditional salesperson. I always had a philosophy that didn't always align with what most sales organizations believe sales to be. And that I have to say has served me well. It's always been a philosophy of truly serving people with where they have a need and not where there is not one. I always say that the worst, people use it as a compliment, but the worst thing you could say to me is that I could sell ice to an Eskimo because Eskimos don't need ice. So if I could sell some boots or some gloves to an Eskimo, that would be fantastic. But ice to an Eskimo is just wrong in my opinion. And so I've taken that philosophy and really carried it through my efforts here at Belay, and truly it aligns with our values here at Belay. And so it's just been such a great fit for me with my career and personally, having a good work-life balance that they respect and really demand has been just an amazing journey for me. And we live what we sell. And so it makes it really powerful when we know that we can do the same thing for our clients that we do for ourselves here at this company. So
I love it. I love it. So I want to like pull out a couple of those parts of your story. But just to give everyone some context, can you tell me what Belay is?
Yes. So Belay is a remote staffing firm for all things back office production. So if you think about all the administrative tasks that come when you own a business, when you run a business that you shouldn't be doing, we do that. And we do that fractionally and we do it remotely, but we do it with all US-based assistants and bookkeepers so that there's no problem with language barrier or time zone on all of those things. We're unique in that we make sure that we are matching a hand-picked match for each one of our clients based on not just skill set and the tasks that they need to have done, but also on their soft skills. So we'll make sure that it's a good connection Some people have called us the Match.com of the staffing world. I like to
I'd
say
agree
that
with
we're a
that.
little more elevated than that, but yeah, so it's kind of along those lines. And we're super proud of it. We started in the church space and grew into the for-profit sector fairly rapidly and found that this is a need across all small and mid-sized businesses. And it's just been an amazing journey.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And I mean, I'll just kind of speak into this. So we have two executive assistants and a bookkeeper through Belay at our company, Good Agency. And oh my gosh, it is a game changer. I mean, the headaches that we've had over the past 15 years of staffing for those roles, we were always sacrificing something, and it was always something we didn't want to actually have to give up. And so um, the only thing we're sacrificing is having someone in office. And honestly, we're not in office anymore, so it's okay.
Right.
So anyway, we've loved our partnership with Belay so far, and are excited about what the future looks like. So with that said, um, with just your journey in mind, I'd love to know kind of what got you to where you are today. I know you've got a background in sales. You've got kind of when I say a background, it seems like it's a very significant background in sales. It's
Yeah.
not, oh, I worked for this one company once. It was
No.
no. So I'd love it if you could kind of give us a little bit of your background on that front.
Yeah. So I don't have a traditional career background, meaning I'm a community college dropout. I, after high school, went to community college because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I spent 2 weeks in a classroom and said, I'm done with this. I
Mm,
want to go work. And I loved talking with people. I just had, the people person thing. I just was that person, even at a young age. And so I decided at that point that I was ready to work. I was ready to go make a career for
mm,
myself. And it probably wasn't the easiest path to take, but I quickly realized I didn't need a degree to sell. And so
mm,
I got into the travel world for a minute. I did travel agency work, which is selling trips. That's fun. And then from there, I got into an advertising firm, radio advertising. And I did a little bit of account management with them. That quickly moved into my first career, which was construction. Um, I learned I had a knack for designing additions on homes, very large additions on homes, and then being able to go into those homeowners' space and really talk to them about our services and how we were different than the competition and learned that I had a knack for sales and design. And so that was my first career. I did that for 10 years. I was the only female in the building, let alone on the sales team. And I was the number one salesperson. And much to a lot of old men's dismay,
mm,
it was a very interesting for a young 20-something girl to really kind of take over that space. I ended up being the sales manager there and kind of teaching them a new way of doing things, which was fascinating. And
I
then
can only
got married
imagine.
and had my first baby and decided that I was going to stay home for 10 years and be a stay-at-home mom, PTA president, all the things for 10 years, and decided it was time to go back to work. And I was fortunate enough to stumble upon Belay back in
Mm,
2013. I wanted to work. I really did, but I didn't want to be gone all day long. And I didn't want a long commute. And I wanted to still be able to maybe not be the PTA president, but be a volunteer and be a part of
yeah.
my kids' elementary years. And I found Belay and they offered that. And so I just took the first job that they had available because I was like, I want to get my foot in the door. And then quickly, a natural progression was for me to go into sales leadership, which was within the first year of being here. And as the company grew, my role grew.
I love it. I love it. So, all of that brought in like all of these different points and perspectives that most people would not gather during a traditional career, right?
Mhm.
So that made you kind of a prime candidate for a not so traditional service offering, right?
Yes. Yeah, it wasn't new for me to do something that was unique or even to be able to present something that was unique. And I think the difference with Belay and the reason that this has stuck and the reason I've grown to a point where now an officer in the organization is because I believe so much in it.
Mm,
It served a need in my life, and I quickly realized that what was working for me at the corporate level with Belay was exactly what we were giving our clients.
mm,
Um, and it was a solution to a stay at home mom with a professional background that felt like I needed more without sacrificing my home, being a wife and
mm,
being a mom. That was really important to me as well. And so I just found a balance that was unheard of especially at that time. I like
mm.
to say we were remote before remote was cool. And to be able to offer that to our clients, I just think is such a gift. And to the contractors, those that may not, same thing, that they were looking for the same thing that I was at the time, which is I want to work a little bit, but
Mm.
I don't want to leave all day long. And so it's just been an awesome match all the way around.
I love that. I love that. Back in 2019, my COO came to me and he handed me this book by a guy named Jason Fried
Okay.
called Remote. And I
Mhm.
read that book and I hated that book so much. I was like, no, 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 this cannot happen. I cannot go remote. And the very next year, everyone went remote, and
Yeah.
it became cool to be a remote company. But I was grateful for that season in
Mhm.
2019, where it was kind of laying some groundwork for the reality that remote was possible and
Mhm.
that remote could be done in a way. And in Jason Fried's example, taking 37 signals and the entire team at base camp, uh, fully remote across the globe and doing it successfully. I mean,
Mhm.
that was your poster child for that. And
Yeah.
obviously you guys were doing it at the same time. I just didn't read your book.
Yeah.
But with that said, we've obviously seen some pretty significant changes in just
Mhm.
what not just remote work looks like, but what employment in general looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are a staffing agency, uh,
Mhm.
and 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 it's something that's frankly been unheard of prior
Mhm.
to y'all coming on the horizon. So,
Mhm.
I guess my question for you and all of that is, what what does the future of work look like? Um, what is on the horizon, and do you think it's going to ever go back to the way it was?
Um, I will answer the second part of that first. I don't think
Okay.
it's going to go back to the way it was. I do think that, and I know for a fact that a lot of very large companies, Fortune 500 and less, companies are trying right now to force their
Mm,
staff back into their offices. And I get it. They have this real estate that's sitting there empty that they can't sell because nobody else wants it. And
mhm.
I get it. But the reality is you have a happier employee when they have some flexibility. And I mean, let's be honest, with technology, who really needs to be sitting inside an office? And if
Yeah.
you're hiring people that you don't trust and feel like you have to micromanage, then your problem isn't remote, it's who you're hiring. And so
Yeah.
I believe that it will never go back to the way it was. It can't. And I don't think the employee will allow it to.
Mhm.
I do think there are businesses that hybrid makes sense. And I think for some people in their personality, hybrid makes sense. I mean, there's certainly a season and I go through periods that I'm like, gosh, I really wish I had an office to escape to today because it'd be great to get out of my
That's
house.
me.
Right? I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with that. And if there isn't a brick and mortar for you to go to, that's where Starbucks and their Wi-Fi
Yeah.
works great. So,
Yeah.
um, you know, so I don't think it'll go back, but I do see that the remote and hybrid workforce is here to stay, and I do think that will become very normal. And I think people will eventually stop trying to fight against it because I do think
Mhm.
it brings happier employees, and that's what you want. They're going to be more productive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with the future outlook on how things continue to shift, I mean, I feel like it's really moved into this snowball going down the mountain kind of thing, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and changing. How do you see remote changing in the years to come?
Yeah, I think with the advancement of automation and AI, that we have to embrace it. I don't think it
Hmm.
is, especially in our space where a lot of people get confused with we have virtual assistants. Are they AI? No, they're people. But that doesn't mean that we don't utilize AI, because it's here to stay, and it can help create more efficiencies, and it helps all of us do things a little faster. So I'm all about that. So I think it's embracing it, not fighting against it. I think to be able to be remote, making sure that you have processes and procedures in place that make up for the fact that you're not down the hall from somebody.
Hmm.
And so I think that that's a big piece of it, is allowing technology to enhance that, not try to fight against it.
Hmm. No, I love that. And I think for anyone who's listening, and most of y'all tuning in, yeah, I know that you're thought leaders, you're folks who are thinking about your business and about how to plan for the future. So when we're talking about how all of this is shifting, I know that the question that is just burning in their minds is, what should I be doing now to plan for all of that? And I know you're in that same kind of seat in an executive role there at Belay. So what are you doing right now to prepare for all of that? I know that's a
Um,
big question.
yeah, I was going to say AI is a big thing on our focus right now. And so we are, as an executive in the company, we are all using our EAs, having our EAs use AI, and then basically trying to take what they're doing and what's working, and then sharing that with our client base.
Hmm.
And so that's a big piece of it right now. The other part is that we continue to do, and have always done, teach people how to work remotely. I
Hmm.
think that's important. And then constantly looking for efficiencies as technology grows, and AI does replace some things. Really making sure that you don't end up overstaffed,
Yeah.
or overcorrect and understaff yourself. So I think that's really what we look at on a regular basis, is as roles change, because technology has changed things. Um, are we staffed appropriately, and don't
Hmm.
overcorrect, because then you get yourself in a pickle in the opposite direction. So that's probably the biggest thing, is that staffing and technology and how they marry. That's the biggest piece of it.
I love it. I love it. So when you're thinking about all these problems, I mean, you mentioned AI several times, and you're thinking about just this future, a lot of unknowns tied to that. How is AI going to develop? I saw a great ad today that a construction company had going. It was like they painted an entire building in New York City, one of those old brick buildings, and it was, "Hey, Chat GPT, build or finish this building for me," and
That's great.
and it was a staffing hiring billboard, essentially saying, hey, don't worry, your job is not at risk right now. So I think
Right.
in general, though, regardless of the industry you're in, you're asking yourself, how is AI going to affect this? So there's that
Mhm.
problem, and then there's also the problem of increased wage expectations, the
Mhm.
problem of inflation just
Mhm.
hammering every aspect of our culture. So I mean, there's a lot of problems that we're facing.
Mhm.
What are you really seeing as that big problem, that big um, thing that all of these business owners, because you work with so many different businesses,
Mhm.
what are the things that you're seeing and hearing that you're actually able to help them overcome?
Yeah, I think it's the obviously staffing we're going to focus on.
Sure.
For us, it's helping people be able to get a solution without them having to go hire somebody full time.
Mm.
And that the employee burden cost that comes with a full-time employee, the recruiting for it, the vetting for it, the coaching of it, the training of it, there's a lot of time, effort, and energy that goes into that. And most of the time, small and mid-sized businesses don't need these roles, the ones that we offer, full time.
Hmm.
Very few leaders need a full-time executive assistant. Very few leaders need full-time bookkeeping. And if they do, they already have departments, and we
Exactly.
can help those departments and support the departments, but we don't become that department for them. And so it is really recognizing when to outsource, and what to outsource, and what makes the most sense for them financially to do so. Um, as we grew, I don't think that the problem hasn't changed. As we grew as Belay, we outsourced a lot, and we're an outsourcing agency.
Hmm.
And so until we needed a full marketing department, our marketing was outsourced. Now, of course, at the size we are now, we have a full department, but we still use vendors and our own contractors to supplement when we don't necessarily need somebody full time. And so I think it's really being able as a business owner or leader to recognize what areas in your business are lacking support and not going to, oh, I must need to hire that role. No, you
Hmm.
don't. You most likely need to outsource that role.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, with that being said, I know we've talked a lot about remote. How do you build a successful, healthy remote workforce? I mean, for me, it's probably one of that I mentioned earlier. That book by Jason Fried I wrote, it made me
Mhm.
angry. It's because I just love the in person. I feel like there's a buzz in the room. I mean, I can probably get more out of it than other people get out of it, to be honest.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's a selfish thing, but in general, it is not easy for me to manage a remote company. And I guess my question for you guys is, how have you done it? And I know we'll be on this call for about 5 more hours if you fully answer that question. But I mean, as as just a business owner, and I know all the business leaders and owners that are listening in, they're probably asking that question: how do you build that healthy remote team?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, you're right. We could talk. This is like the biggest question ever. We are so proud of our culture, and we're so proud of um, just the people that we work with in the corporate staff. We win culture awards, best places to work, best culture. Like we win them every year, which I think is phenomenal. And just um, from a personal experience, I have never been closer to a group of people I work with than I am
Mm,
here at Belay. And that's crazy because we don't work in the same building. It's just
mm,
phenomenal to me. The way we have done that is taking the anonymity out of being coworkers, meaning we get to know our team on a personal
mm,
level. We get to know them, and we are very intentional about spending that quality time with them. And we don't do any call, any meeting without it being on Zoom with videos on, mute button
mhm,
off. I mean, it. We want people engaged. We have a rule that they have to be sitting at their desk, and if for whatever reason they needed to be in their car that day, they need to be not moving, sat in a parking lot, and engaged. And if they're not, we know, and we're talking to them
mhm,
about that because it's super important that we know we have everybody who is actively listening in the room, quote unquote room,
mhm,
the Zoom room, if you will. So that's one. And we set those expectations very clearly in the beginning and we hold people to it. And so being really clear with what your expectations are, making sure that you're coaching and leaning in when they're not met. We truly believe being clear is kind. And
mm,
so, just because I'm correcting somebody doesn't mean I'm mad and it doesn't mean you're in trouble. It's just reminding them of the expectation and how we want them to show up. And so while we might be remote, you don't get to come to a client meeting with your hair in a messy bun and a t-shirt on and not looking
mm.
professional. You still have to show up and be that professional person. And when somebody slips, because we work with humans and people slip,
Yeah.
it's just a reminder, like, hey, this is the expectation. Um, and not being afraid to say, and I've reminded you of this several times, and so it doesn't seem like we're the right answer for you, and let's
Mm,
help you go find that right answer. And so we are our expectations are clear and we hold people to it and we inspect what we expect even virtually, and that has
mm,
helped us tremendously. The team feels the relief of knowing what we expect of them.
mm,
um, and then probably the biggest thing that landed with me when I took this job with Belay 10 years ago was the owner at the time said, I hire adults and you know
mm,
what the expectation is. How you get there, I don't need to know. I just need to know that I can count on you and I can trust you and that you're an adult and you're going to show up and do your job. Because if you don't, I will know very quickly that you're not, especially in sales, right? You don't hit your number,
yeah.
you don't hit your number. But making sure again, because the expectations have been set and they're so clear, allowing the autonomy to go do that. And when they don't meet it, then digging into why, seeing if
Mm,
it's coachable, and then helping them either coach them up or coach them out. And so because we do that, we've gained respect of the other team members who might feel like
Mm.
one of their peers are not pulling their weight. There's a relief when they see either the change or the change out of somebody
Hmm.
else. So we're really proud that our retention for our team members is very, very high. But we're not afraid to step in and say, yeah, this isn't working for you because all the coaching opportunities haven't brought you back to where our expectations are. So
Hmm.
I think that's big. Leading with trust is huge. And then a big component that I think is so powerful is our in-person events. So quarterly, we get the entire team together. All 100 and I don't know how many there are of us right now, 130 ish.
Wow.
We have in-person meetings quarterly. We have one next week, and everybody gets so excited about it. It is literally one solid day of nothing but feeding into our team, giving them kind of a state of the union in that at that point in the quarter, doing team building activities, focusing on one of our core values. Our core values and our mission statement and our vision statement are not just words on a wall somewhere. We live them out every day. We do core value awards and make sure that we're highlighting when people are living out our core value exceptionally. And
Mm.
that's what those one day events and those quarterly in person meetings do. And sure, there's an expense to it, but we don't have a brick and mortar, so we don't have to pay taxes and all the other things that come with it. And so it's still cheaper than having a building that we have to go to. And it's been very, very powerful.
I love that. So what I'm gathering from you is that ultimately the only way you can make a remote team environment work is by establishing a healthy culture built on strong values.
Yes.
That's what I'm gathering, and from what I saw on y'all's website, I don't know if this is the most recent, but gratitude, teamwork, vision, passion, fun, and God. Those are y'all's core values, right?
Yes, those are it.
Awesome, awesome. So, how do you utilize those core values? I know you mentioned that you hand out those core value awards, but how do you see those practiced on a daily basis? And for folks listening in, how do they set their own values?
Yeah. So, the best way to cultivate, especially a virtual culture, is to abide by and embody it in every single day in what we do. And so just this week, actually, in our weekly all staff meeting, we gave out value awards for the value God. And so we picked three people in the organization. The executive team just kind of talked it through, and we picked three people that we felt like deserved to be called out bigger than what everybody else was doing. Our director of accounting services prays for our company every morning at 8:30 a.m. with one of her
Mm,
peers, and they have a phone call where they pray over our company. And we have a salesperson who prays before every single one of her sales calls to make sure that she feels like God is giving her the right words that this person needs to hear on the other side of the
mm,
call. And then we have one of our marketing team members started a monthly Bible study that's
mm,
optional, and people can go to. And so calling those out and just sharing that with the company to say these are three exceptional people at this core value. Um, you could just see their faces light up, and they were recognized and they were seen
mm,
for something that they do so well. So that is one way, is ensuring that we are recognizing it in our team. But the other thing that we do, I think, is really powerful is in our weekly one-on-ones with our team members. Our managers do this, and in their little template for their one-on-one is, what core value do you think you did well on this week?
mm,
And so we are holding them accountable to that. So if it's a team member, you did a great job with teamwork this week because you backed up somebody who was on PTO last week, or
mm.
um, you sent a handwritten note to a contractor because they went above and beyond with the client, and that went a long way of showing your gratitude. And so making sure that we're just talking about it on a regular basis, and then of course as executives making sure that we're a great example of that. And so we
Mm.
write handwritten notes and we make sure that we're talking about them, because we want to make sure that everybody is bought in, and that it's, again, not just one of those posters on the wall with words on it that don't
Yeah.
really mean anything.
I love that. I love that. And that's what I think has allowed us to make it through on just our own company success, moving back in 2019, when we made the switch, we had 39 people on staff. And I mean, that was a lot of people to just say, hey, see ya.
Yeah, go home.
We'll see you on Zoom. Have fun. But yeah, the fact that we had those core values implemented and already talked about, and those core value awards, I mean, that was just so huge. So everyone listening in, I could not agree more with what Lisa's saying. So with all of that said, Lisa, we're coming up on time. What advice would you give to business leaders looking to simplify their business and to really make sure that they're properly staffed?
Yeah, again, like I said, making sure that you're ensuring you're properly staffed is an ongoing process. It doesn't end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really because technology has changed things. So we've even found ourselves in a season this year where technology literally replaced part of a department. And so how does that look? Does that mean we really have to get rid of part of a department, or how can we better utilize those folks now that we have this technology? So it's a constant assessment. One thing that our HR does, and I think it's so smart, is evaluating the job descriptions on a regular basis. Does that job actually still look like it did when we created the job description? If it doesn't, change it and make sure that the person we hired for that job still fits with that now changed job description. And so it's just that constant evaluation and staying in front of it as things evolve, because they do. And then evaluating your staffing needs. Like I said earlier, what should you be outsourcing versus what do you need a full-time staff member for? And then streamlining your business processes. There's so many great tools out there today, making sure that the role that you have filled with a full-time person is as efficient as possible, so that let's be honest, your budget is reflected in that. And yet, there are some tools that are way more expensive than the person, and not as effective. And sometimes it's the opposite. And so just making sure that you're staying in front of that, and that you're not making rash decisions on those things. When don't rashly hire somebody full-time that you're only going to have to let go 3 months from now because you could outsource it. And don't break your budget to buy a tool that may fix an issue for a minute. It's a solution for a minute, but it's not a long-term solution. I think those are probably the biggest ones.
Yeah, that's solid strategy, critical thinking. Love it. Okay, so last question. This is more of a fun one. And this is really just, what are you reading? Like, I mean, as business leaders, we love to consume all of this content on the internet, but books, man, they never get old. So what are you reading these days, and how has it impacted you?
Yeah, so we are actually, as an executive team, we are reading Predictable Success. I'm looking over at my book, Predictable Success by Les McGowan. And it is a great leadership book that is helping us understand our growth track as an organization. We lived in a season of hyper growth, and that was fun. But most of us in the executive team have been here from almost the beginning. And so we've seen our business grow from this tiny little small business to what we are today. And so making sure that we understand the track that we're on, where we are in that season, and then pivoting in areas based on the season that we're in, and making sure that we're being smart about that. So I'm super excited about that book. I'm about halfway through. But I have to give a shout out. Go Giver Sells More is by far the best book I have ever read. Bob Berg wrote it, and it encompasses our belief in ensuring we are not selling ice to Eskimos.
I love that. I love that integrity. Lisa, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And so for everyone tuning in, belaysolutions.com, I would highly recommend you go check it out. I would personally love to be able to give you guys an intro to the same account manager that I get to use. And so shoot me an email, clay@goodagency.com, and I can set up that intro. Lisa, thanks again for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Clay. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a blessed day. And everyone, we will see you guys next time on Good Business. If you like this podcast, please subscribe now and share with friends, family, and other business leaders. You can learn more about each guest and the resources we discuss at podcast.clayvaughan.com. And if you're a business leader looking to market your business and share your story, check out Good Agency at www.goodagency.com. We'll see you next week on Good Business.